It cost me and my family about $700 a month in the summertime to power our house. And with prices so high, I decided to build an entire solar system, including this shed, these 2 batteries, inverter, installing 28 solar panels on their own ground mount system just to get away from PG&E. So this is how I did it. Hopefully it can give you some motivation or inspiration if you ever wanted to do something like this yourself and say goodbye to these crazy energy bills that they're charging us with. So this is not your typical fisherman's life video, but we're installing a solar system at our house, and I know it's going to save us a ton of money and could potentially save you a ton of money if you do something like this and follow along. So I just wanted to share the journey with you and show you how easy it really could be to get you off the grid completely. So we're basically going to be doing everything for this install, including permitting. How much did we get quoted for to have someone come build this system?
Almost 90,000.
Almost 90,000 for a professional solar company to come install, and we're doing it for about a fifth or a sixth of the price. We're gonna have 28 solar panels, which is about 15 kilowatt hours of solar input. We're also gonna have 2 14 kilowatt hour batteries for battery backup. So we literally assembled 30 racks in less than an hour. And I'm thinking to assemble them on the hill is going to be just as simple. It's a big day today. The contractor's coming. We're going to terrace out the hill. And I got to get one of these solar panels off so I can measure it to make sure the spacing on the ground mounts is just right. Hey, good morning. After it's terraced and leveled as good as we can, we're gonna lay these racks out, and once that's on, we put the dirt over that. So I was thinking the 2 terraces there, and you might need 3 just to lay dirt on that final row. It's been just about 1 hour and he's almost done with the first terrace. So I really thought this hillside was going to be too steep for Guy to get up here with his backhoe, but it's making it look easy. Next thing that I have to do is build a small shed next to this telephone pole. That's where the batteries, the inverter is also going to go. So he's going to trench down from the terrace because that's where the conduit is going to go underground. And then we're going to make a concrete pad, a flat one here. We're going to build a small shed so he can help with all of that. And oh my gosh, it pays to hire a professional, definitely. This is a 1-inch EMT conduit, and this is going to go in between the panels. You're going to trench it now? Is that the plan?
Well, yeah, I'll trench while you're setting those out.
Yeah, can we trench from right here? Just needs to connect to that last mount and put some conduit. Hi.
Hey, how's it going there, sir?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for coming by early. Billy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. So what are we doing today?
We are putting in some ground mounts for the panels.
Okay, so I'm looking at some pier holes.
No, it's this is how it's set up. I can give you an example here.
So you won't have the panels on when you're doing this up there. That way you can pile dirt on top of these.
Yep.
So that's the way these are anchored down is a certain amount of dirt.
Ballast, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly what you're inspecting, but I could tell you the plan for everything now.
Honestly, I don't know either. I've never inspected a system like this. So it's all new to me.
I'm not sure why my camera started recording in slow motion, but it did. Anyway, Billy the inspector told me he would come back the next day to inspect the concrete form anchors, and then he would be able to pass the foundation part of the ground mount solar system. We also paid a guy $300 that we found on Fiverr for him to get all the documents ready for us to submit to the planning department, and they were all approved. This is kind of a makeshift string line I got here. So what I'm doing is marking right on the line, And then I'll be able to see the line once I remove the string. So this ground mount system was really amazing. It also came with stamped engineering plans, so we didn't have to get anything separate when we submitted it to the planning department. So the same day that Guy came out and terraced out both levels on the hillside, I had to complete putting together all of these ground mounts in order to be finished before the inspector was scheduled to come back the next day. And by the way, it cost $1,800 for Guy to come by and terrace out both levels and also trench the hillside. The contractor's gone for the day. Sarah and I finished out putting this first 14 mounts on. Got 2 hours of light left. See if I can get 14 mounts done in 2 hours and pretty much have all the solar panels ready to go in less than a day, including terracing. Man, this system is pretty cool. Really shout out to IntegraRack, because there's nothing else really like this that's so easy to put together. All done. It's 7:50, so 1 hour 50 minutes. It helps so much to have someone else stand on each mount as you hammer those stakes in so the whole thing doesn't move. That saves almost half the time. And yeah, wow, all in one day. So the next morning, Sarah and I rolled out this non-woven geotextile fabric, and that's just to prevent weeds from growing up between the ground mounts as the years pass.
How's it going? Good. How did it go yesterday?
Oh, hands are sore, my body's aching, but we got everything in.
Yeah, that's tough work, man. All right, so I'm just gonna run up there and check all those concrete form anchors that we put in, and then I'll sign off foundation. So, okay, so final next.
Yeah.
And then it says, we went over the plans this morning with the building official. I pulled them out just because I've never seen this system and I wanted to see if there's anything special I needed to look at. You're all good. Okay. It says 22-inch mounts.
Yeah. I'm going to tell them to put extra because the panels sit so high anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It's actually a cool little system. All right.
Cool.
You got your permit down there? I can sign foundation for you.
Now that we passed inspection, I'm just waiting for Guy, the contractor, to come by. All this conduit going underground has to be Schedule 80 to meet code, at least for Calaveras County. So a little bit earlier, Guy and I glued all this conduit together. He flattened out a pad where I'm going to put the shed. Now I'm climbing up here to put the weather heads on. This is how we're going to come up here. Here's our 1 1/4 inch 90-degree sweep. Pipe's going to go up here and meet together. This is where this conduit is going to go. I just taped it all together just so they stay in line. So once they're buried, they'll be in the same place. See if this works. We're gonna try to suck this rope up. Just feed more if we need it, okay? Ready? There it is. Now we just gotta get the wires, build this shed, and we got solar. just when I thought everything was going smoothly, we get hit that we need a permit to build this shed. And this falls under the shed ADU category, which is about $2,000 for the permit. Oh my gosh, way getting us over budget a little bit, but we have to do it if we want it permitted. But they approved our permits, so I can continue with this shed, and that was the last thing standing in the way of really getting these panels up. Might not look the best, but it's done. Not exactly sure how, but I was on a fishing trip and the slab foundation, it was passed by inspection, so the only thing left to do is build a shed. Oh, beautiful. Look at that slab, man. That's nice. Roof is pretty much done. Just one more piece of flashing. We can get on to finishing this whole solar project. I really want to emphasize too that even though I'm going to be completely on solar, I'm still being tied to the grid. So I'll pay their service fee of like $25, but it'll reduce my bill from like $700 in the summer to $25. But you're still connected to the grid just in case something happens with the solar. You can automatically switch back to the grid if you need power. So this IntegraRack system is very simple. It has a bracket like this with a very sharp end, and on the bottom of the solar panel there's a notch which this bracket slides into, and that's what's going to hold the solar panels on the mounts. You can see the mounts have a hole in it, and once I tighten the nut here, this sharp part of the bracket will sink into each solar panel, effectively combining all the panels into one, so at the end of each string I can run a ground straight to my panel and the whole system will be grounded. Everything was pre-measured already, so now we can start sliding the panel down. Sarah should have room to put her bolt in. We'll make better adjustments later. There are a ton of warning and safety things that I could say, but the main thing is that I'm not an electrician, and I am dealing with 240 volts, which can kill you in an instant. So you have to be really, really careful when you're messing with any kind of electrical like this. The cool thing about where I got all this stuff from was from a company called Signature Solar, and they specialize in DIY solar kits. You can piece together everything you want for a solar build yourself, and they just had everything I needed. So shout out to Signature Solar from Texas. Right, let's get our wire. 500 feet. Oh. This is 10 gauge outdoor rated wire, and I need 8 of these to fit into this conduit because I have 4 strings, a positive and negative for each. So it should fit very easily. Technically, to save money on wire, you could just run this all the way to your conduit and then switch from this in a junction box to the THNN wire, and that'll save you a lot of money because this is outdoor rated, and that stuff is going to be in the conduit, so you don't really need it. And one more thing about this wire, we're running wire from the edge of the solar panels, and it's going down the hill to the shed. If you have a really longer distance, you need a thicker wire. Well, I hope this is enough. We got 8 cables plus the ground. We're gonna run them now. Let's do it. Okay, I'll start pulling. Got it. Woo! Look at that. Oh, dude, it's like catching a PB lingcod. I'm gonna have to add some more conduit, but I can put it over the wire and attach it after. This is the last one. As long as this reaches the end, we got everything set. And okay. There's a lot of little steps that you can't mess up on. I should have done this before, but I guess I got a little ahead of myself. Yeah, it's easier going backwards with the hole saw. Way easier going backwards with it. I basically got the boxes in. It would have been way easier to do this from the start. I had to run all that wire back through. My son helped me with it, but first time doing this. You make mistakes. One day extra labor, save $70,000. I'll take it. I was just thinking the other day, my friend came to visit from Elk Grove, and he's not on PG&E. He's on a electric service plan provided by SMUD. And he told me that they get charged 11 cents to 17 cents per kilowatt hour. 17 cents is their peak charge during peak hours, right? PG&E charges 71 cents for whatever level charging you have, or it could be 50 cents, but the lowest is 35 cents, and that's like an EV charging rate. But average is like 50 cents per kilowatt hour. Like, oh, and you have no choice if you're on PG&E, which, you know. This house right here, in the summer, we have our AC on at 79 degrees. And we still get charged $700 a month for electricity. Isn't that crazy? So I figure with the cost of this system, we'll have this whole thing paid off in like 2 or 3 years max. We won't have to deal with PG&E anymore. Heavy. There's one of these and an inverter, but we might as well bring both of them. I think each one is 300 pounds. Luckily it has these ropes that we can carry it off the floor with. Oh man, that's a lot of work to get these in here, but 2 indoor power walls. And this is the inverter. It's a 12,000 XP. I think I was saying earlier you can get 24,000 kilowatt hours of solar input, and it can output 12 to your house or a shed or whatever, and 12 more to your batteries to charge at the same time. That thing weighs 104 pounds. Those batteries weigh 300 pounds each, so this is going to be easy compared to the batteries. I didn't show it, but I put some blocking where the batteries and inverters need to be mounted. There's one right here, and there's one right here. And this is cement board that needs to go behind the inverters and batteries. So I just got one more piece. We're good to go. $15 laser level like this helps so much.
One, two, three.
Up. Oh yeah. 2 batteries mounted.
Toward me.
There we go. Forgot to film this, but I put some more blocking around the junction box, and then just used a 2.5-inch hole saw to drill through the siding as well as the junction box. And that's what I'm going to go into from the inverter, and it's also what I'm going to go back into from the inverter. This is where the AC disconnect and the transfer switch are going. Gotta drill some holes. Alright. Woo! Let's go. Feeding these wires up through the panels. Now I'm wiring up this PV disconnect. It's to disconnect the solar arrays from the entire system. It's a tight fit, but got everything wired. I don't know how I got all this through it, including the ground, but I did. Is it going to reach? That's the question. All the PV wires are connected with ferrules. 4 strings in. Now what's next? Yeah, this stuff is hard to work with. I'm just taking a piece of paracord and running it to my load and line and seeing the distance and marking it with a piece of tape, and that's how I'm getting my measurements. All right, this is grid power, line 1 going in. There we go. Perfect. Neutral going in. There we go. This is load out coming from the inverter to the transfer switch. I already threaded it through here. This is my load out from the transfer switch to the AC disconnect. And the AC disconnect is going to run through this conduit back to the main panel, which will feed the entire house. I'll go over the whole system at the very end of this video and just go through a walkthrough. I just tied all these solar panels together. I just took a number 13 wrench and tightened each one of these nuts. And what that did was bonded everything so it's all connected and it's grounded once I connect it to the main ground, the earth ground on the main panel. Next thing I did was connect some MC4 connectors to the PV wire that I bought. A very simple process. So I stripped about 10 millimeters of the jacket off of this 10 gauge wire. This is a positive line, but I'm putting a negative connector on here. That's because the last run from the solar panel is positive. So to be able to connect it, I need the opposite connectors. These are really nice because as long as you follow the steps, you can't mess them up. And you can buy a crimping set for like 400 bucks, but this was 40 bucks and it works just fine. So I'll put it in the 10 gauge section, ratchet down the crimp. That's not going anywhere. And then I'll put this connector on. It's really nice too. And it clips into place like that. Only the negative connector will fit that metal piece. They do have a positive one and that only fits on the positive side. Screw that down and it'll form a watertight seal. This was a special sub panel that I bought that has pass-through lugs. So power comes from the top, goes to a breaker, comes back out the bottom to wherever you want to go. So I did that with both ends of these 7 3/0 cables. They range from 5 feet to 8 feet. And after these, I'll just need 2 more. Solar will be ready. I'm going to install these first, and then I'll have to buy 20 more feet of this copper wire, which is $6 per foot. Transfer switch done. I spent the entire day wiring the sub panel, transfer switch, and AC disconnect. I got, let's see, oh, it's on, so it won't open. But I got 2 fuses here in the AC disconnect. Everything is grounded. Inverter is all grounded. Batteries are grounded. All the connections are there. It's time to connect the solar panels, and then we're going to turn the whole system on for the first time. All right. Our last connector to test, and they're all connected. All right, we're connected. We can turn on the inverter. Oh, exciting. I think we need to turn on the batteries first.
Isn't that like an instruction manual?
Yeah, why don't we look at the instruction manual, start up.
Now, inverter battery breaker to the closed on position or on position.
All right, I'm gonna turn the first battery on. Okay, and then turn it on.
Then 5 seconds power on the second one.
Okay, oh, it's on. It's on the lower right side of the unit. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, inverter is on. All right, I'm gonna turn this PV switch to on. This is the PV disconnect. Okay, and then we're gonna turn on the PV. Okay, oh, look, we got PV charge right now. 500 watts charging the batteries. Okay, I'm gonna turn on the whole system right now. First, I'm gonna turn this to solar. Okay, that's on solar. We're gonna turn on our 100 amp breaker. We're gonna turn this AC connect to on. Yeah. And then we'll turn on our 200 amp service. Okay.
Breaker to on.
Grid breaker. This is load. This is for load out.
Feeding the grid.
All right, now it should be feeding the house. This switch right here. Lights are working in the house. Okay. Probably it's not using grid because we got battery and we got charge. There's no need for it to use grid. So we've been running strictly on solar for the past 2 or 3 days, and we've only had to switch it back to grid maybe once or twice. So this system powers our whole house very efficiently, and it all starts with the panels. So let's give you a walkthrough of the whole system in detail now. So one of the biggest hurdles for me starting this project was finding a ground mount system that would work for us. It would be too difficult to dig piers and pour concrete on this steep hill, and our roof is also too steep. So when I found this IntegraRack ground mount system, it all came together. I had the vision. So there's several types of IntegraRack models. This one specifically has these brackets that could be adjusted for the angle of the sun. In the winter, when the sun is lower, we can angle it way up high. When the sun is directly overhead in the summer, we'll angle it like this. And they were so simple to put together. About 2 hours for this one row and 2 hours for the second row. No digging necessary. All you got to do is stack dirt on it 22 inches high, and you got your beautiful ground mount system rated to 200 plus miles an hour at snow load and everything like that. Each of these panels are 550 watts, 688 with bifacial gain, which means it can absorb sun from the top and the bottom. Each string is 7 panels in series. I've got 2 rows of 14, so 28 panels total. Each row comes over here to this junction box where it's grounded. The grounds are all connected. They go into this weatherhead, into this conduit, and into this junction box. That row comes into here. This row comes into here also. And there's Schedule 82-inch conduit that runs underground all the way here to this shed. So after we get to the shed, the wires come up through this conduit to this junction box to this PV disconnect, so I can turn off all the power coming from the solar panels with a flip of a switch. From the disconnect, they're routed back in to the junction box through this LB connector up here to the PV input for the solar inverter. So there are 2 MPPTs, which is like a controller for the inverter, and each MPPT can house 2 strings of solar panels, so 4 total. It might be a little bit easier to explain things out here, so let me explain what I did with the transfer switch, sub panel, and AC disconnect. I still have to put the stickers on that say solar and grid and off, stuff like that, but I just want to show you what's inside here. So this is the transfer switch. This is the sub panel. So I just turned the main breaker off my 200 amp panel. There's my AC disconnect. To pass inspection, if you're getting a permit in California, you're going to need an outdoor transfer switch and an AC disconnect with a knife blade, which can turn on and off from the exterior. It's more for the firefighters if they come and have an emergency to be able to turn off power if they need to. So this is how my house was run before solar. Grid would come in from here, from the service, and it would go through this conduit underneath all the way to the house, and there's another sub panel over there. So my goal was to have my inverter run the sub panel from the house without separating any loads. So this is how I did it. There's a 200 amp main service, and that runs through this conduit to this kind of special sub panel. Not very special, but it's a little bit different than what you'd normally see. The 3/0 wire goes to the inline for the sub panel. And since the inverter can only take in 100 amps, I didn't want to overfeed it with 200 amps. I had to split it off to a 100 amp breaker here. So those 2-gauge wires run straight to the inverter for grid in. On the bottom side lugs of this sub panel, these 3/0 wires continue up through this runway, up to the transfer switch, and they continue to line in for the transfer switch. The load out is also in the middle, and that goes over to the AC disconnect. And there's only one line coming out the AC disconnect, and it feeds back through here to where the grid originally was feeding the sub panel at the house. So if I want to, I can flip this one to grid. Power will run through this sub panel, back up through the transfer switch, out the load to the AC disconnect, back down to the house. But if I want to run on solar, I would flip this switch on the transfer switch to solar, and that's where this 2-gauge wire goes up into the conduit. It feeds into the inverter to the grid location, and then there's a load out coming from the inverter, also 2-gauge wires, and those go to the solar part of the transfer switch on the bottom. So I was pretty confident that I don't run more than 100 amps at a time for the most part, so I can get away with running that 2-gauge wire to the transfer switch on the bottom. But if I need more power and I want to use grid, I'll flip it up and I'll use the 3/0 wire, and that'll give me the full 200 amps. Now the only thing to be careful with this setup is that if you do have this transfer switch to grid, solar, or off, there's always going to be power coming in from this breaker to the inverter. So even though that says it's off, there's still power coming in from that breaker, so you'll have to turn that breaker off for the inverter to stop having power. Let's see, the sun just came out. Let's see how much power we're producing. So from leg 1 and leg 2, line 1, line 2, we got 6,200 watts coming out, and about 12,000 watts are powering the battery right now. Each of these batteries have 14.8 kilowatt hours of battery storage, and they've been getting us through the night pretty well, no problem. We still have about 25% charge when we wake up. There was one splice that I had to do from the AC disconnect to get power back to the house, and that's in this main service. I used these Polaris connectors, which connect the 3/0 wire coming from the AC disconnect to the original 4/0 aluminum wire that is feeding the sub panel at the house. And with that, we have power. You know, this might seem a little bit difficult, but if you have a flat spot in your yard and you can put your solar panels close to your meter or where your sub panel is, you do a little research on DIY solar forum, you could totally do this. So as far as the inverter, the batteries, the solar panels, the PV wire, a lot of other components, the racks itself, I got them from a company in Texas called Sig Solar. They have a lot of deals, a lot of free shipping on the panels, which is hard to find. But I got all that from Sig Solar, and the brand of the inverter is an EG4. The model is the 12,000 XP. I did a lot of research on the DIY solar forum, and yeah, it's really user-friendly. I had one issue with the inverter, and that was the firmware, but I called Sig Solar. Their customer service was really good, and that got me up and running, no problem. And yeah, it's 3 days in. Let's see what I produced so far. So as you can see, I've got 13,422 watts coming in from the solar panels through the inverter, and it's charging the batteries at 8,400 watts. I also have the air conditioning on in my house, and that's using 4,500 watts. But also, if you look at the grid, there's nothing coming in from that side. You can see today, I've only imported 0.3 kilowatt hours of power from the grid, and that must have been in the morning when the batteries were low. So far today, my solar yield has been 15.4 kilowatt hours. And for the most part, I don't ever have to go back to grid. So the only thing to do now is to pass the final inspection and get the permit, and then add value to our house, cut the cost of PG&E. You could totally do it too. Just do a little research. Just be careful with the electrical part. But yeah, get off the grid, man. It feels so good to not rely on PG&E and have to wash and dry your clothes at night after peak hours. Oh, like just to cater to their power schedule is so annoying. But to have the freedom to do it on your own and have power whenever you want, it feels so good. So, thanks for watching. Back to fishing videos now.
Yeah. Okay, well, guys, I'm good with it. Yeah, I'll final this with no issue.
The shed as well.
The shed as well. Yeah, the shed looks good.